Oh,
I have video, dude.
okay, there you are over there. All right, I
Should I
see.
turn mine horizontal?
Yeah, horizontal makes a better picture, apparently. Oh,
But
okay.
well, I gotta not cut my head off.
Okay, there's two of us now. How do you switch between cameras? You know how to do that.
Oh Jesus, Mike, I can't do everything for you. Switch between cameras. You have two cameras.
Yeah, so I got my camera set up over here, and we did that with Ceramics Monthly.
Oh, you need it. Well, on the phone, you just swipe right or left.
Oh, okay. Well, now I can see all those. Okay, that's interesting. Well, I was wondering, can you hear me or you're frozen? You're frozen. Like I wanted to get a camera angle from here every once in a while, like there. I don't know. Anyway, we'll just do this one for now.
All right, my framed good.
You ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille? You do look like a movie producer. Oh, stogie time. There you go. Sweet. I gotta get my coffee.
You
Uh,
bet your ass, Scott.
All right. So, welcome to episode one there, fella.
Uno numero.
Of course. Why would I start with anybody but you?
I love to be on the first and last episode of anything.
You might just be both today.
Nice.
What was I saying? Yeah. So if you want, you were talking about maybe uh people could make stuff at the same time. So I had a couple things to make while we're talking. Got about an hour to chat. Um, you look like you're too well dressed to make anything.
No, I think it's better if one person makes something so they can watch one thing and then listen
Yeah.
to the whole conversation.
Okay, and you can hear me just fine.
I can hear you great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you good. Because I have like a microphone thing and I have AirPods, but I think that these works just fine.
I have my iPhone.
I don't think I need this one actually. I'll have to talk to hold on, let me see if I messed this up.
Well, you should just record that with that one. Just record a video.
Uh,
Don't even go live. And then that way, if you end up doing editing in the future, you can have some maybe make that one a detail shot of you making pots.
let's see. See if
Does
I
that
can
make sense?
Yeah. See if I can do that.
Then that way you could always edit that in later of some detailed shots of you working.
Of course, I got to figure out how to edit after all that. I made a list. Like I just sat down, scrolled through Instagram and did a list of people. I got probably 50 people already. And I messaged a few people saying, hey man, I got a new podcast if you want to be on it. So
Oh, you'll get people easy.
yeah, it'd be fun. Uh I will leave that for now. Anyway, sweet. How you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. So if we were to do this like officially,
Yeah.
uh, I would say welcome to episode one of Between Two Ewers. Oh, I made a new ewer the other day. Where the hell is it? Ah, it's upstairs. Darn it. And then I sold the one the lady came
So we're renaming it No Yours.
between
Oh,
one ewer.
doing 1 year.
I have another one, which is pretty fun. This one kind of came out pretty cool. It's interesting. I was like, oh yeah, but what you got to do is I have to put a mark here for people to remind them that that's the fill line.
Yes.
But I don't overfill it and just, but whatever.
Or they'll do it once and learn.
Exactly. That would be asking people to pay attention. So anyway, how's things with you? How's the pottery going? You making anything today or it's just work, work, work?
Nope. Right now it's other jobs, and then hopefully the next week I can get back to work, and I need to make a bunch of stuff to fire my new clay body at cone 6-7. So
Oh, very cool.
I need to use up all this old cone 10 glaze I have and clay I have, and kind of get rid of that. So I'm going to make a bunch of stuff just to use all that up, and then
Yeah.
start glaze testing and running my little test tiles and all that good stuff so I can get these glazes worked out.
Now, when you say 6, 7, it's anywhere from 6 to 7. I mean, with nowadays with the digital controllers and stuff, I mean, you could set it right to 2232 and have it stop right at 6, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's really figuring out where the clay body vitrifies properly and then where the glaze matures the best of what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the testing is, just figuring out where in that 6, 7 range will I get the best results. So maybe I've always done high fire, cone 10, 910.
Yep.
So for me, this is a adjustment. I'm trying to reduce my electric bill. I found some dynamite cone 6, 7 glazes, and those I've never really been super happy with before that act like cone 10, 910 glazes.
Uh-huh.
So it's just kind of working that out and figuring out what works best.
Dude,
And
I have a jar over there or two jars of Shino, Cone 6 Shino, believe it or not.
electric,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's a crazy color. It's kind of fun to mess with, but it's pretty
yeah.
interesting. I made a list of questions
Oh,
just,
look at you, official.
just for you. It's funny. I was telling my wife the other day after you came over and we chatted and stuff. I was like, Marshall's one of those rare people that I can just sit and talk to for an hour or two.
Yeah, we can say a lot of inappropriate things that we want to on this episode.
Yes, all the things we won't say today. Um, it's funny. Did you see? Oh, I gotta show you my other mugs here. Hold on.
Yeah, I like the new FU mugs. Those are pretty fun. So what'd your wife do to make you do that night?
F this mugs. Isn't that funny? No,
Uh,
you know, that's why I call them morning mugs because you get up in the morning and you're like, oh Christ, another day. You know.
I love it.
Oh wait, here's this one. This one lady, she's like, I got on there to buy this one.
I love it.
She goes, but I fell in love with another one. I shipped out 6 mugs today. So
Oh, awesome.
yeah. But then I get some people that get offended by that, I guess. I don't know. I'm like, really?
Yeah, well, there's someone that's going to get offended by your white glasses, Mike. So they're going to have to get over it.
That's true. These are not white, these are teal.
Oh, teal. Sorry, I couldn't tell from.
No wonder your pots are terrible. You can't tell what colors are.
That's a very good point. Why am I even testing glazes?
Just get one. Just one.
Make a big swap.
Well, okay, so here's the perfect thing for all the people out there. This is what Marshall and I do to each other. We just rip on each other. And that's what, that's fun.
Yes.
But that was kind of one of my questions and one of my things I was going to talk to you about, like, is what cone do you fire to? And it's interesting that I think in the past couple of years, I think a lot of potters, even a lot of pretty darn famous, well-known ones, are switching to cone 6 electric.
Yeah, I was really fortunate to go to an amazing high school that had a phenomenal ceramics program.
Uh-huh.
And they had gas and electric kilns. They fired the cone 10.
High school.
Yeah. So I just kind of started my experience with clay with a very particular style that usually I think most people don't experience till they get to college.
Yeah.
So that was very fortunate in that way. And I just have always done cone 10. It's just what I like. The way the glazes work together and move are just, tend to be a little, at least in the past, tended to be a little different 20 years ago. I think now that's all changed with new understandings of glazing, at least on a common experience. The accessibility of people buying glazes now that are cone 5, 6, 7 that look and act like cone 9, 10.
Yeah.
And with spray boost and pouring properly, and you can also achieve some great effects that are very similar to atmospheric kilns like salt or gas. So for me, it's now playing with electric kilns and I'm sorry, someone tried to call me.
Oh yeah. Mine off, but
there you go. Mine playing now playing with electric kilns as when I got my own studio a few years ago, and well, way more than a few years ago. But then was really experimenting with how do I get those atmospheric effects and flashing and kind of fake and mimic that in electric kilns, because that's just what I like. It's just who I am. It is, deep down, I'm kind of this messy, gritty, I'm not really the clean, tape it off and glaze and do all these design as far as me controlling it. I really love the kind of what just the kilns can kind of do to a glaze themselves when you place them in certain ways and do things to it as far as helping it a little bit along. But at the end of the day, it's kind of what happens happens. And
Hmm.
also the fun in that is sometimes and often just kind of allowing it to happen and not really necessarily being in that control where I know what's going to happen as an end result.
Yeah.
So that really, I know obviously with something you do and your designs and intricate design work, you pretty much know and can control pretty much what's going to happen, and you know exactly what's going to happen when it comes out.
Pretty much.
For the
It's
most
kind of an
part,
oxymoron in ceramics.
yeah. And I kind of like the opposite of that. I like the old Japanese saying like the kiss of the kiln god, those
Yeah.
cracks that just happen,
Yeah.
the things that are unexpected happy endings, but happy endings with pottery that sometimes, when you open that kiln and it's just a surprise. And for me, that's always exciting. It's like Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I love for me personally. And so now it's how can I do that, conserve electricity, use less energy. Oh my gosh.
Oh, we lost you. Now you got to sign back on, you goofball. Let's see how long it takes him to get back on here. This is why we can edit it later, I guess. Where'd he go? Let's see. Where'd he go? I just texted him a loser. There he is. Admit. All right. There.
Uh,
Hey, hello.
so I guess you are going to have to edit this one a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. All right, turn your phone sideways again.
You know what I just did? I just put on airplane mode. I think that's what has to happen. Let's see
Yeah,
if I can go sideways again. There we go. All right. I think I'm good now. Oh,
sweet.
a little bit better. But yeah, there you go. So remind your guests if they're on the cell phone to put in airplane mode so they don't get phone calls.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
interrupting, ticking me off. Sorry about that.
yeah,
Anyway, so now it's just adjusting to a smaller cone, so I'm just using less energy is really what I'm trying to do. Reduce my energy costs, reduce my impact on the environment, and all that good stuff.
So
So,
your kiln is a big oval kiln. I see you just got a new one there. I mean, how much is that per firing electrically, do you think? About 15, $20?
well, where I'm at, yes, because I'm lucky to be in a village that has about a third of a cost of because we have our own utility company. We have a third of the cost of electric than the average place.
Okay.
So in New York State, you're probably averaging 15 to 20 cents a kilowatt. In the village, it's like 5 cents
Okay.
after all the cost of delivery and everything. So for me, yeah, about $15, $20 at the most for a high fire.
See, I've never really figured out what the cost of mine is. I always
Yeah.
figured it's about $20.
Yeah. There's actually a formula you can do based on your rate.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you go to any good Olympic kilns, they have a formula right there that you can just plug in your rate
Hmm.
and how long you're firing, and then it just tells you right then how much it costs.
You
So
can have,
that's the thing to know, obviously. If I was outside of the village, it'd be 45, $50 a firing. So,
yeah. I didn't think it was that much, but good to know.
well, yours is a much smaller kiln though.
Yeah, it is definitely smaller.
So
How many?
yours is probably around $20, $25, about
Okay.
half the size of mine,
You gotta
so.
send me some pictures of some pots. Actually, I meant to get those. So when I go to promote our thing here, I'll
Oh,
say,
sure.
come check that out. What you got any there you're working on? What do you got in the back? See, I love the one with the brick you did. Those
Um,
series.
yeah, this happened to appear today. Just my work just on the wall. That I don't know how. Crazy.
Look, you cleaned
Yeah,
up the studio.
yeah. No, I have some fun, funky stuff that I work on. I have one that you might recognize. Mike Griffin and I did a
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
little collaboration on.
That was fun.
It's a vase, and I made it and then brought over. Mike painted it and then glazed it for me. Kind of his style, which is the opposite of my style for glazing.
I just did some
Um,
flower mugs. I got like two left here. I don't know what it is about the flowers. People love them, and I just like it's kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Yep.
We're drinking that one right now. I'm playing with a yellow glaze that you might like. And
Yeah.
you know,
Now that glazes, we can actually use each now because we're both fine at the same time. So,
here, see,
ooh, I like that drippiness.
I love it. And it kind of like it kind of embraces the texture that I have on my mugs.
Yeah.
A nice white.
Yeah. And that's, very similar to the drippiness. It's hard with the reflections of the light,
No,
but,
this looks great.
and so that's electric kiln, high fire. So my goal is to get those same kind of movements and kind of just deepness of the glazes in the cone sevens.
Yeah, I love the size of your mugs. You could yours are great like soup mugs as well. It's a
That's
nice.
yeah. No, that's well, I drink a lot of liquids, so I like to make mugs big. It's different than what a lot of people make, so it also makes me stand out if I go do a craft fair or something.
And for those people
Important.
out there that don't know you, Marshall sells his big giant mugs for $25. And I remember asking you, like, why do you do that? And you said, because I sell every one of them, which is
Well,
genius.
and I'm not doing intense detail work. I mean, there are people who are selling their mugs.
100.
Probably your average solid potter, you're $60 to $100 for a really good mug.
Yep.
Um, and a lot of that absolutely deserves it because the amount of work and time they go into making those mugs is very different than the amount of work and time goes into making my mugs.
Okay. Yeah.
I could knock out a lot of mugs in an hour, throw handles on them, trim them out, and then I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably I could do 10 to 15 mugs in the time it takes some people to do one or two mugs.
Yeah.
Um, if not more, I could do. So, I want to be fair. Obviously, time and place matters as well. If I'm down in New York City in a gallery where there's a bunch of other mugs, then
Yeah.
my prices are going to go up because one, I don't want to undersell everyone. I want to be competitive and not devalue what they make.
Yeah.
Because obviously, the average person who's never done pottery doesn't understand what goes into making and not necessarily the amount of time it takes to make one item, but the amount of years it takes to be able to make that one item.
Sure. And to
And
make
the
it.
competency, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
anybody who takes the pottery class one time, not
Yeah.
one class, but one session of classes, instantly understands why a mug's 25, $30 on the low end.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
You
and
know,
then
I was thinking
once
about that the
the
other day when I was actually decorating these F this mugs.
aids,
There's
you
like quite
know,
a few steps to it, and then I tried to like use these like stickers to make this better, and it just trying to stick it to bisque, it just it wasn't working. So I had to take every single one of them with this little knife and peel off the letters and stick it, and then peel off, and I was like, oh my God, these are not going to be made very often.
yeah, and sometimes I think what people really don't understand. I'm sure every potter watching this is going to go, "Yeah, you're speaking to the choir,"
Yeah,
but it's just the amount of trial and error to figure out. For example, you're making, a very specific handle. And, if you're doing a mold, creating that mold and getting it perfect and, fine tuning that and then learning how to attach it properly so that it holds on and has the quality control that you want. Um, and just all that process that might be literally 30 or 40 times before you get it right.
yeah, oh yeah, at least.
And, that's a ton of pieces that get thrown away or not used or not sold to get it to where you can make that one properly continuously from that point on. So the amount of work and research that goes into something is just so much more immense for a lot of people. And so they don't understand that there's that value in that.
Yeah, I took my recycle bin the other day and took everything that's been sitting on my shelf here for a year or so, just threw it all out. My wife freaked out. She's like, "You need to consult with me before you throw stuff away." It was all stuff I didn't like. It was all stuff that didn't sell, and I'm just going to make another one. And I'm pretty lucky that this is not my only means of income.
Sure.
I would like it to be, but man, that's a lot of work. The people don't realize how much work it is to just come down and do this every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm
I
lucky.
would say very, very, very few people make it a good living as a small pottery.
Yeah, like a
or
small batch
or
pottery.
or artist. And I mean, Instagram's kind of sneaky, and so is the buy sites that advertise the works, because it makes it seem like, the whole social media lie of everyone's doing great and they're kicking butt and all this. There's a few honest people out there, um,
Yeah,
but
right.
yeah, it's just such a lie in that, there's so many artists in that you can make. It's just almost impossible to be that have your full time job. I'm very fortunate as well to have another full time job that gives me a
Yeah,
lot of time so that I can do this. Because right now I don't make crap for money. I mean, I sell work every now and then. I get into shows, but I couldn't make a living. I'd be dead, or having to make things that I don't want to make and
yeah,
selling those and kind of being a pottery whore. And I hate to say that and use it in that way, and I use it only in that way if you're doing something you hate, but you're doing it because that's the only way to make means in order to keep doing what you want to do,
mhm.
which is what I did for a few years when I had my own little pottery. I made bowls and bowls and bowls, and people give me orders. And for me, I hated it. It wasn't good for my creative expression that I needed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, Freddie Fredrickson from Alfred told me that one day. He used to have when he came out of school at Alfred, he had a pottery studio and he was making these big planters. And he said, Mike, we got the studio up and running. And I spent about a year sitting at the wheel throwing 20, 30, 40 planters a day. And he said, this is not what I wanted to do. No, it's just, I mean, and that's why I think that another reason I think mugs are expensive. I can really only do like a dozen at a time. I can throw them all and then my back hurts. I'm like, oh God, I don't want to throw any more. And then you gotta make the handles, then you gotta you gotta shape them and then decorate them. And before you know it, you're like you said, there's 2, 3 hours in each mug.
yeah,
Here's your platter.
dude, I love it. I
Fun,
love
right?
those hollow form platters. Those are awesome.
I'm gonna do a big one now, like you said, a big one.
And for everyone watching, buy that for Mike, because that's a phenomenal presentation piece for like sushi
Yeah.
or some very creative, well made appetizers. Like, what a beautiful piece to be out on a table and to be able to serve something on to your guests. Like, for me, that's one of those great places. And then it's awesome to sit somewhere in your home as just a decorative art
Yeah.
piece.
A cool looking piece up on the shelf.
With great functions. That wax resist with the leaves there and everything.
No, it's a sticker I made.
Okay, so that's glaze.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, and it's funny, there was some people visiting the studio the other day and they bought the other Ewer and they were loving this piece before I decorated it. And I said, yeah, my buddy Marshall said, make a bigger one. I said, dude, this one was hard to make. Like, you know what I mean? Like to try to keep the form even,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to have the slabs not slump in certain areas. It's just, yeah, it's a challenge.
It came out awesome. It looks amazing.
It came out pretty cool. Good, big,
Love it.
yeah.
Love it.
Anyway, so you're originally from St. Louis, right?
Yep.
Right? And you had gas kilns in high school. That's freaking wild.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to go to a high school in a very good tax bracket.
Private school or something?
No, no, no. It was a public school, but it was like as if you went to a private school. It was that kind of a public school.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s and early 90s. It was called Ladue Horton Watkins High School.
Hmm.
And we were very fortunate to have an art teacher who was really into ceramics. I mean, he'd go up to Flagstaff every summer and fire. Um, and just Vic Bathman, he's still alive. Just went and visited him last summer. Um, Phenomenal artist in his own right,
Uh-huh.
and got to work alongside incredible other artists. And just one of those guys that back in the late 80s and early 90s, schools did not encourage kids to pursue art.
It was all
And especially in that school where you have people who are lawyers and doctors and financiers. And so art was not a creative thing. And he really just encouraged me to pursue it, and many other artists and students as well who've gone on to become successful artists.
Yep.
And yeah, so we were lucky. He had a beautiful gas cart kiln, a big electric kiln, literally 30 pottery wheels, slab rollers.
Very cool. I think it's very cool that you're kind of still like buddies with them and stuff to this day.
Oh,
That's a cool.
every one of his students is like spent his life impacting people in the most positive, great ways. Um, and so, to have that foundation, someone with that encouragement, just accept you into their spaces and just encourage you and teach you is, ultimately what made me go on later in my career to help open an art center
Yep.
and to help encourage and really mentor other students who are in high school and looking to move forward and graduate. And,
Yep.
every now and then you get someone who touches base with you because you went and did a demo somewhere, what I did to local schools when I was living up here, just because the schools around here, ironically, were near Alfred, New York, one of
Yep.
the top ceramic schools in the country, or the ceramic school in the country.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if it is anymore, but it was.
Definitely top five,
Yeah, oh yeah.
a top 10 art school in the country. And our local school districts, for the most of them, have one pottery wheel. Have, you know, the town I'm in, Wellsville, has a few more, and you've had some ceramics teachers that used to be ceramic artists that were teaching there. But for the most part, they don't have accessibility to arts and good art programs because they're very small school districts with 1,000 kids in the entire school kind of thing.
A lot of schools combine because around here because they're so small.
Absolutely, and still small schools when they combine, comparative to like what I went to, where we had
Sure.
500 to 1,000 kids in each grade.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I grew up in Long Island. It was
yeah, so it's
kids in school.
exponentially larger there. So to have someone like that in my life, and just I've always wanted to move forward and create those opportunities for other people as well. So
That's very
I'm
cool.
much more of an enabler than I am an artist, I would probably say, in that respect.
I agree with that, knowing you for so many years. Speaking of which, when I first met you, you were well, you had just finished at Alfred, I think. You were a special student. How'd that come about? Like explain that.
Well, I rode the small bus to school.
Oh,
So they have a program called a special select student, I think, or select student or special student, something along that lines.
yeah.
Where essentially Alfred invites, I think they still do it, a couple students a year. You apply for it and kind of get to know the professors. I got to know them because I went and did a summer school there one year.
Yeah, which is awesome, by the way. If
And
as ever gets a chance, go to if you're a Potter and you get a chance to go to summer school there. Oh my God, I've
just
always
the accessibility
yeah
to the facilities is what makes it so special and amazing.
yeah.
Because you have access to kilns that literally you can put small vans in. I mean, they're huge.
Which they just
Um,
rebuilt. Have you seen the new kiln
I
barn?
haven't been in there in a few months, but
Oh, it's probably a couple of $1 million, that thing.
that's crazy.
It's huge. But anyway, so keep going. So you got selected to do that.
Yeah, so I did a summer school. They liked my potential. They invited me to do that before I applied for grad school there. I didn't make it into grad school there, but they invited me to come do that. So I went and spent a year doing the special student program, which essentially I get studio space, full access to all the equipment. I have to do some responsibilities helping fire kilns with the grad students and that kind of thing. And you're kind of in purgatory between undergrad and graduate school, and you just kind of float there, and you get access to the professors, and they'll come and meet with you each week and go over
That's
your work.
priceless. Oh, that seems
It
fantastic.
is. And the only thing obviously you're paying for the school, you pay like a credit, I think. So it was a few $1,000s for the year. It wasn't very much. And then you just buy your materials. But other than that, you have full access to glazing and glazed materials. So the accessibility in itself for that year was an amazing experience, and something, if you have the ability to do that there or any other school, it's huge because you're not restricted by coursework. It's literally like an apprenticeship where you just get to go and work and have these people who are obviously incredible artists in their own right help mentor you. So, and then you work alongside these other great artists who are in graduate school, or the artists they kick out in undergraduates is incredible there as well for their undergraduate program. So you just get to be in that mix.
Yeah, I was down there a couple of weeks ago, and I stopped in at the senior studios there to talk to this one girl who I met actually on Instagram, and check out. She's a sculptor. She's a MFA student there, and she's what a sweet young lady. But gosh, her stuff is freaking amazing. Like sometimes you walk through those studios and you go, wow. Like some of the senior shows, just some of the stuff is mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the stuff is not, but
And I did that much later in life too. I did that as a 30-year-old.
mm-hmm.
No, because I went back to school and got my undergraduate degree in arts when I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
So also being mature and going there and experiencing that was wonderful as well, because then you just have a different appreciation for things, different experience than someone. If I was in my early 20s, I would not have been
Yeah.
able to take in the quality of what I was getting at this. And I don't believe I would have. I'm sure there are some 20-year-olds that can, but I
Yeah.
was that mature at early 20s to do that. So
Yeah. It's funny. I went back to school late in life too. And, I was a terrible student in junior high school. I was just an idiot, and
okay.
yes, it was. Yeah. And I went back to school and I got straight A's, and I
Yeah,
remember talking to my dad. My dad's like, "How's school going?" I said, "It's really easy if you just pay attention in class."
and want to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, "Oh my God, if I could reach through this phone and choke you, I would." Oh my God, dude, I told you that your whole life. I just wasn't ready to listen to it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Everyone's at different places in different stages.
And want to be there is what you just
Yeah.
said. It's cool.
And you were a rich kid anyways who had anything you wanted.
Oh yeah, sure. No, I was surrounded by rich kids and mom was at work all the time. That was kind of fun. So me and my brother kind of raised ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, let's see what else we got in here. So you make your glazes, right?
Yes.
Just from old recipes you've had forever, or?
Um, no, actually, this new batch of cones, 6 and 7, I found at an art center locally, the art center I used to run.
Yep.
Um, and they had whoever their studio assistant was put together an awesome chart with some great results of similar how to I do it, a cross-reference chart of all your glazes overlapping each other. Um, and I was just really impressed by the quality of those glazes. So I just asked if I could get those recipes, and they were happy to give them to me. So that's what I'm kind of starting with. 8 of those glazes I really liked. I had about 12 or 15. So I'm going to start with those 8 and kind of see what works and what doesn't with my work and move forward. So the next 6 months will be just testing that and figuring
Mhm.
out
Yeah,
what my style and kind of vibe I want to be will be.
I'm gonna get some t-shirts that made that say it's all about the Zerka packs, baby.
Facts.
Or just a shirt that says Zerka packs.
Love it.
This
Um,
podcast is sponsored by Zerka packs. And
yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's where all the other ones is just finding them online and just playing testing. When I was in college, I went to a junior, not junior college, a very small private school, but also had an amazing ceramics program.
Mhm.
I mean, the professor for art was a ceramics guy, so he just built an incredible ceramics program comparable to my high school one in that respect. My high school one rivaled most, at that time, 20, 25 years ago, most colleges, I would say. And his rivaled that as well. And, he was big on testing glazes, big on making your own glaze. They never bought it. Everything was all material made based, and you made all your glazes. So being a studio assistant there and making all the glazes and just getting very comfortable with that process,
Mhm.
and learning how different ingredients react differently with clay bodies or with glaze color, those kind of things. So I enjoy making my own stuff, and that way I have control over it. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I can save so much money.
Oh,
I,
absolutely.
I make a lot of work. So, for me to buy a small quart of glaze wouldn't last me a day. I mean, it would be so
Mhm.
expensive. So also fine tuning glazes and finding those glazes that are in my price range too, so that I'm not spending, when I'm doing 10,000 grams, I'm not spending $400, but instead of $100 for the glaze body, or even less sometimes.
Yeah. I bought a glaze the other day when I was up in Syracuse and I bought 20 pounds of it. I actually was up there and I drove there. I figured I'll save myself 30, $40 in shipping. And it was $8 a pound.
That's amazing. And we're very fortunate, and Mike and I have a little secret, but since we both are lived in the Alfred community, and I went to school there, and Mike's a local guy and has some connections to the school, we're very fortunate to be able to access their raw materials too. Um,
I went to school
so
there too. Do you remember?
what's that?
I went to school there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Mike did too. So in Alfred, if you go to school, and I think most colleges are this way, if you go to school for 1 year or more there, you become an alumni officially.
Hmm.
Not because they want the credit of who you are, because they want your money, and that puts you on the alumni donation stuff. But the advantages of that is you get to take advantage of the school access that alumni get. So, we're very fortunate and I'm very fortunate to live here in the sense of I can go buy and probably get my materials for about half of what they'd be anywhere else.
Literally. Yep.
Because they don't mark it up for the students, or it's a very, very small markup, like a 10% markup. So they really try to give their students a great deal from their clay store that they have specifically for raw materials. And so we're very fortunate to access that. If you live somewhere near a college, that's always something to talk to them about, especially smaller colleges. Because I worked when I lived other places, worked with like junior colleges and stuff who buy big clay orders.
Mm-hmm.
And they will have them shipped a few times a year, or at least once a year, once a semester, and see if you can jump in on their orders because if they're buying in large amounts, they're getting extreme discounts as well.
Sure.
So, literally you're going to pay about half of what you'd pay if you went to a regular store. Obviously, if you have local stores and you're able to support them also. But you're a starving artist like I am sometimes, or Mike is sometimes, or at least we were for sure. Access, that's a great trick to access stuff and get some better.
Or also, if you live next to a school or university like that, ask about sitting in on classes, right?
Yeah, you can, what do they call it? Audit a class.
Audit a class, yep. And most of the time, the teachers love you because you're actually somebody who really wants to listen because the grades matter to you,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So there's lots of great creative ways to save money. But yeah, so I make my own. It just allows me control over everything. Now, every now and then I buy stuff too just to try it out.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I just want to like really detail something, I'll buy some things that I normally wouldn't make a large batch because I use very small amounts of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in general, I have a pretty good material shelf full of stuff.
See, I buy them and then I alter them to fit this clay body, which actually I just got the recipe for this clay body finally. It's a Laguna clay, but they only make it for Alfred. So now I have the recipe just in case I can't get it from Alfred anymore, which there's something in this, I think it's talc actually, that is getting harder and harder to get, apparently.
Yeah.
But like this yellow, I bought this yellow. But I want it to be a little more opaque and a little more yellow. As a matter of fact, like this is the way it started, and this is where it's at just with a couple. It's a huge difference in one firing. So I tweaked it a little bit today. So yeah, you can always tweak these too.
It's funny how dynamically different we are because Michael always called me and be like, you got to check out this new glaze. I've been tweaking it, getting it to just the right style, just the right color, the right drip, the right everything. And I'm the opposite of that. I'm just like, give me a bunch of glazes. I'll just slop them all together, spray them, drip them, layer them, and see what the hell happens. And a good example is like, something like this where I'm just layering glazes to create, with a celadon and a white and kind of, some other stuff I spray and just get it ooey and gooey. And, I like that reduction vibe.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's sometimes you're talking about stuff and I'm just like, I can't even relate. Like my mind doesn't even want to go there. And then Mike's like getting into it and he's like, yeah, and then I'm tweaking it and adding this and that. I don't know.
And it's funny because like I was at Aramont. This podcast is sponsored by Aramont School, which it's not, but it should be. I'm going to call them.
Aramont should sponsor your podcast. That'd be smart.
Should, and so should
really, and get them on the map maybe one day.
Yeah, so should Speedball and Laguna. We'll get there. You're episode 1. What was I saying? I was at Aramont once for Pentaculum, and I was talking to Bertie Boone, she's a glaze guru, and we're talking, and she says, "Well, don't you remember the M scale and glaze calc class?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And she said, "Well, I thought you went to Alfred." I said, "I did for liberal arts." She was like, "Oh," like, "Oh, you're just a commoner." You're just an idiot, It's funny. Whatever I've learned from being lucky to know all the professors at Alfred and asking lots of questions or bothering you all the time. Like, hey, what should I do here? Or my buddy Pete. Did you ever know Pete Roberts?
No, I don't know Pete.
Pete and I used to throw together back in the day when I was first learning. I learned using Wayne Higby's porcelain scraps to throw with. Talk about a pain in the ass to throw with. But it was free clay, So I
Yep.
flaked it down, wedged it up on a wedging table, and learned how to throw with it.
Yeah.
Actually, it was clay. It was porcelain made for tile. So there was no strength in the wall at all. And of course, I was new. I didn't know I could just add some grog to that, make it a little stronger.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a journey. But now it's funny to hear you say like, Mike's tweaking glazes, and I don't know what the hell he's talking about because, whatever.
I'm not a science mind. So for me, glazed calc went right over my head. I just wasn't, and I wasn't interested, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that just give me 10 glazes in some buckets. I'll run some tests and then I'll make it work for me.
Yeah.
So the beauty of that for me is I don't waste anything.
Yeah.
I will use a glaze down until the last drop,
Mhm.
and I'll slot them together and tweak that to make it so it'll work on my clay body. But other than that, I just kind of make everything work. Like I said, I'm going to make a big body of work now just to get rid of my cone 10 glazes,
Mhm.
and then start working on a focused body with the cones 6, 7 glazes.
There's a fun kind of freedom to that too, though, because now you can just
Totally.
use those glazes and just you can have fun and test like crazy because you don't really care what's happening because you're changing glazes.
Well, that's pretty much how I do everything anyway. I mean, I just have fun with it. For me, like I said, I don't need to make a living on it. So I have by far the largest collection of Marshall Green pottery of anybody in the world. There are a few people that rival me a little bit that have been wonderful patrons of mine over the years. But yeah, mine is more about, I don't know, glaze plays a role in it, but glaze isn't the focus for me.
So
Really,
what is then?
what what's that?
What is then? Form
Well, form and
and process.
what function I want the piece to have.
Yep.
Um, you know, sometimes I just do glazes because they're pretty, and I know people will respond to pretty glazes.
Yep.
And however, a lot of people watching this have just cringed when I just said that, but that's the reality. Sometimes I know I have a real pretty glaze that people are like, "Oh my god, that blue!" I respond to for some
Yeah.
reason, which
Sometimes you have
happened
to
at the
make
last show I just did. The last show I just did, I had 40 or 50 tea bowls, I had 20 or 30 mugs, and this one blue I had, oh my god, it flew off the shelf.
Yep.
Like they couldn't contain themselves for some reason. It reached something to almost everybody there. So, I have a little of that blue left. I'll make a bunch of mugs and just dip them all that blue and watch fly
What's
off
that?
the shelf.
The old saying, right? If you can't make it big. If you can't make it big, make it blue.
What
You never heard
if it's big and blue? Holy shit.
that? That's big money. Well, what I find myself doing nowadays is finding a glaze, pulling it out of the kiln and going, oh, like I really like that. So then I'll be like, okay, now I'm gonna make a form to that. You know what I mean? Like, like I did. What did I do? I made some of these flower mugs. This one made this flower mug the other day.
Yep.
And I'm like, I really love the way the blue terracage comes through this white glaze.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay. So then I made this jar and
Yep.
I colored the inside blue because I knew it was going to come through really cool.
Hey,
So
Mike, is that jar for sale on your website right now?
this is, yep,
All right. How much is that?
175.
God, that's a good deal for that jar.
I think so as well. This is a good little humidor. You can stand some cigars up in there. That's a big
You
sucker.
could actually. That's a very nice.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to sit on someone's desk and have 6 or 10 cigars in there.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So sometimes, like right now, I have some bowls, like, because now I'm laying in bed going, all right, now I know how to get that blue. I can make a set of plates and a set of bowls with this kind of blue rim.
Yep.
And then I got some bowls that I'm doing yellow exterior, but they're fluted. So yeah. And then it's never enough time.
Never enough time, brother.
Then it's April and I got to go back to work.
Yep.
Um, so you were there for my first piece of pottery ever.
I was.
You were there. I remember running up the stairs and showing you, and you're like, "Yeah, it's not bad." It was about this
I
big.
think what I probably said was, "That's a nice doorstop."
You probably did. It was probably about 7 pounds and about this big.
What everyone does when they first make. But I will say, Mike just went down there and jumped into it and just did it. So
Yeah.
Mike's a golfer, so he's a natural eye hand understanding and coordination that a lot of people don't naturally have, or at least haven't worked on in the way he has.
Well,
So
thank
Mike picked it up really fast, which is great because that obviously sparks your excitement to do it. Um,
you.
and,
Yeah,
and, and you're the kind of guy when you find something you like, you jump into it at full speed.
I do. It's a problem. Like skiing. Oh my God. I have so many. I just sold another pair of skis. I should have went today. We got a bunch of snow today. Um, yeah. So I have this glaze, and this is kind of a cool. You actually might like this one, dude. Kind of like oatmeal-y.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and I think this bleed right there is from mixing with my white. So I don't like it because it pits a little bit. I don't like it for an interior glaze. Like I did a whole mug like it, and nah, not the inside. A white liner glaze with this on the outside is kind of fun.
Nice.
So I'll have to get you some of that. Oh yeah. What else? So what is that so how about this? What is your favorite and least favorite part of ceramics?
Okay. Can I ask real fast? I have a heater on. Is that loud? Can you hear that, or is it?
I can't
Okay. Hold on one second. I'm gonna get a little chilly in my little studio here, so I'm gonna crank that up. My favorite and least favorite part of ceramics?
Yeah.
Well, the least favorite is freaking waiting to open the kiln.
Well, yeah, sure.
I mean, that's painful sometimes, and I might maybe peak a little too early. I've been accused of that once or twice.
Yeah, I do that.
To be honest, and then I think my favorite is just finding homes for works. When someone appreciates your work and gets it, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because I've done pop up galleries and those things in the past where literally 5 people walk in. Of that, 4 of them don't get just walk in, walk around, walk out, and then you'll get that one person that'll walk in and just really instantly get it, and they want a piece and they buy a piece from you and they appreciate it and they want to talk about it. And for that recharges my batteries and gets me excited to work more.
Yeah.
And then also, I think just working through the creative process and fine tuning a piece of work over multiple pieces and phases, and then getting it to a point to where it really works the way I envisioned it, or at least a version of what I envisioned. And then I think the thing that really excites me is happy accidents. I mean, I go into assuming that a piece might not work at all when I'm making things. So when it doesn't work, I don't get upset necessarily. I see that as an opportunity to create something different.
Yeah.
And really by doing that, a lot of my work now is based completely off of happy mistakes that happened in my past, and really gets me excited. The one thing I was fortunate with both of my professors in high school and college were they were big on take risks. And of course in college you can do that, in high school you can do that because you're not really paying for the materials the same way that you are when you have your own studio or shop.
Sure.
Now I can't make an 8-foot tall sculptural piece because the cost on that would be enormous for me.
Yeah.
I mean that in the way of just do it and whatever happens, happens. But what I can do now is go into a piece knowing where my skill sets are and then allowing the happy accidents to kind of happen and then go with those and see what happens from those. So when a piece collapses or falls or doesn't quite come together the way, then I'm going to use that opportunity to, instead of walking away or crashing or smashing it out of frustration, is then I'll be able to now go, okay, what can I do with this? How can I make this totally different? Step out of my comfort zone. It's already broken technically.
Mm-hmm.
It's already not what I wanted. So
Mm-hmm.
how do I make it something now, or at least the first step in something that I want?
Yeah.
And that's the excitement for me is, okay, oh, wow, well, this didn't work. This new thing I tried didn't work, but if I do it this way, it will work. So now I'm going to go, let's try this new thing. And I kind of see where that growth and creative process for me, that's what excites me and gets me excited about making work.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Actually, matter of fact, I just taught that workshop at our sponsor, Aramont. uh, I taught that workshop, and with all these ladies, and I said, I think the thing that works for me the most is and I think John Gill said this to me, the famous John Gill, to drop some names, or a name. He said, never fall in love with any piece you ever make. Just make another one.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, so ever since then, I do two things. Like I made some bowls the other day that I tried a certain wall, and the way they dried the wall kind of wonked, So I just use it as a glaze test.
For sure.
I'm like, it's still a cool bowl. It's not, I wouldn't sell it. Maybe I'd sell it for as a second, but when I get something that I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of sucks. Let's try new glaze on it. Or in the middle of making something like this, right? Like, I don't know. I've done this shape a million times. What can we do different to this? Or I just learned something while you and I were chatting. Like I always torch my walls, right? To hand build up on them, but I don't
Yep.
want to torch because we're talking and it goes, it's
Yeah.
loud. So I just kept building. I don't really need to torch as much as I think I do.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And I've been doing this a long time, and I was like, oh, look at that.
Well, the best advice I give to anybody who's at the beginner level or entering the intermediate level is make a lot of whatever you're going to make.
Yeah.
You're making a coffee mug, make 10 to 20 coffee mugs.
Yeah.
Because it's going to do a lot of things. One, it's going to let you really refine how you make that coffee mug. Two, it's going to let you're going to notice an incredible quality difference in handles from number 1 to number 20. I mean, when I do coffee mugs, I do 100.
Yeah.
I sit down, I can throw about, after I wedge everything out, weigh out my balls of clay, it's about a minute to throw each mug.
Do you throw them off the hump?
No.
Oh, okay.
I find I have S cracks if I throw off the hump. I don't compress well enough.
Yep, sure.
But when I do the wheel, I have 0 S cracks if I'm just doing one piece at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I just pop it down, do it, knock it out, move it, move it, move it. And then the last 50 of them or 20 of them or whatever it is, the quality of the handles and just my natural movement is just so much more impeccable. And then as I move forward and make more later on, I'm still retaining that quality to a certain degree, maybe 80% of that quality. So I'm always advancing the quality of what I'm doing and getting it to a place that's a really good, happy place for those pieces. And at the end of the day, if you make 10 mugs and you're a beginner, and when I say beginner, like probably first year of pottery, right?
Mm-hmm. You
make 10 mugs, you're going to screw up 2 to 5 of them when you're making them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to bisque them. You're going to have 1 or 2 crack. Mm-hmm. That's cracks because you haven't learned to compress them. Mm-hmm. You're going to have 1 or 2 not glaze well. You're going to end up with 2 really good mugs.
Yep.
But you're going to have 2 really good mugs, and then the next time you make mugs, that will increase. Your ratio of loss will greatly decrease.
Yeah, because you learn each.
I can't tell you the last time I had a crack in one of my pots.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't get that, not because I'm great, but because I make a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And I just unconsciously now do the right things.
Yeah.
And it's just the process of building that up, and it's confidence builders and teapots. When you're making a teapot, for each teapot, make 3 spouts.
3 or 5.
3 or 5. Because you're going to find, oh crap, I didn't realize that. Or I need to cut this a little differently. It just gives you the flexibility so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. And then you become really good at making spouts really well.
And another way somebody showed me that about making 3 to 5 spouts is that you just make the spouts and then you make the bodies. You don't make the spout for the body, because then you pick up the body and you pick up one of the spouts and you hold it like this and you go, that's not the one. And then you pick up another spout and you go, that's the one. You know what I mean? You got to, they're not, it's really hard to make them to match, I think.
Now, when you get to a certain level, that does become a thing for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But that's because you have the technical ability. And that's kind of what I was going to get at earlier, and I forgot to mention this. I had the very good fortune of having a high school and college teacher that were very proficient with technical ability. Mm-hmm. I mean, their ability to make teapots and all the elements that go into that, to do large sculpted platters, to do these large sculptural pieces that are both wheel thrown and hand built and conjoined in many different ways. So I really in high school and college mimicked their work before I kind
Mhm.
of found my own direction.
Yep.
And but what it did make me is very a confident technical person. There's not a pot that I see most of the time other than glazing. I'm not technical when it comes to like detail glazing. That's not my wheelhouse. And to be honest, not something I want to get into. It just isn't who I am as a human being. I become more frustrated and angry than happy to be doing what I'm doing. But I know I have the technical ability to make about anything I'm thinking. It's
Mhm.
going to take a few tries to figure out how things work together, but I know I can extrude long pieces, set them up, get them at the right hardness, and put them onto a wheel thrown pot, and then add handles and put on a third foot during the glazing process and let those glaze together and fuse and all those technical abilities. Boy, if you can get that in your wheelhouse, then when you finally find your voice, it's so much easier to make that happen.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
For,
absolutely.
for me, it did.
I'm kind of writing notes as we talk because there's things I want to throw in there. Like, for me, a lot of that happened when I got my own studio space, right? My work completely changed when I could leave my shit everywhere.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that matters.
Oh, absolutely matters. Or the biggest thing I think I've learned in the last couple of years, which is I think one of the reasons I love ceramics is it requires patience. And I am the least patient person in the world, right? Especially when it comes to things I want done. I'm like, let's just do it, and you can't just do clay. You know what I mean? You can, but it's not going to come out the way you want it to. And it took me quite a few years of doing it to learn. Like, so now I have steps in the studio. If I'm going to do mugs, I come down in the morning and I'll throw 10, 12 mug bodies and then put them on the table and then come back at 6 p.m. when those are like, I can pick them up and mess with them. You know what I mean? Letting things dry is one of the biggest things I think I've learned in a long time.
Right.
Leave it, right? Come back when that's cheese hard, almost to the point of where you can barely score and slip it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then you can't, like this right now, this wall I can just bend right in. But if I leave this for an hour and a half, I can come back and do whatever I want to it.
Right.
I can add the lid way easier. Or if I make a lid to this, I'm going to leave that lid for 3 hours. And then I can put the handle on, pick the handle up, and put the lid on, and mess with it because I was patient.
Yep.
Yeah, which is the huge thing about having your own studio, I think. But
It is. Or what I've done is now I'm at a point where I own a building and I can have a studio in the basement. That's a 2,000 square foot studio.
yeah,
And now I'm going to open it up to let other artists come in and essentially rent space for me who are ceramic artists, but limit it to 3 or 4 people so that we can all have it kind of be our own studio and at the same time have a communal space,
yeah, that's
which I
great.
think is very important too. For me, it is. I love being able to bounce things off of people. It's why, we get together usually once a month about and just shoot the shit either at your studio or mine. And just to have that ability of that, because there's something great about being at like an art center and you're having 30 people around you and all this work. Everyone's doing very different work. Some
Yeah,
people are asking you questions because they're beginners and they don't know what to do, and then you're asking the more advanced people questions of what to
yeah,
do, and
yeah. It's
and
priceless.
that it is priceless because it's that school atmosphere, but everyone's paying to be there and they want to be there in a different way because you're not getting a degree at the end, you're just getting
Yeah,
the satisfaction of making work.
yeah,
But as you said, you can't just leave your work out, you can't leave your wheel a mess,
yeah.
you can't have your space. So something I'd encourage people, if you have the ability and space to invite other people into your studio, and I know that's hard for some people, I
Mhm.
get it, I don't want other people to be annoying me or wanting to change what I like to do. But I think the benefits of having small community spaces where other working artists, not necessarily for teaching classes, but
Mhm.
for actually producing work, can be really invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to do some winter workshops here in my home studio because I have a place nearby where people could stay, and I was going to open it up to 6 people, which is pretty tight in here, but it'd be fun. And it's almost in a way, I mean, I would probably make a few bucks off it, but I don't care about that. It's almost a selfish thing because for me, sitting around a table with 6 like-minded people, bouncing ideas off each other and making stuff, it doesn't get any better than that.
All right.
You know what I mean? Like that's just so fun. That's why I want to open a community studio. One, because I want to be there. You know? So yeah, there's a lot to be said to bounce ideas off of people sitting next to you. And you watch them make a mistake and you can help them. Or they can see you make a mistake and go, hey, Marshall told me this the other day. And they go, oh no, that's cool. Or online workshops. I took a workshop with Jen Allen last year, and I'm a hand builder, but she's like the best. And I have a book up here on the shelf that I took notes, and I watched her make stuff, and about 6 times I was like, huh, that's brilliant. You know,
The littlest things,
Never thought of doing it that way.
littlest things.
Yep.
Yeah, it's invaluable, and so that's what I'm hoping to do here. We'll see what happens.
Um, so I
But yeah,
wrote down as you were talking there, you were saying out of high school and college, your work mimicked your professors quite a bit.
yes,
And some people call that, I think the word is derivative, right? But I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, some people think, oh, you're making the same stuff that guy's making. No, no, I'm not. I'm making it my way. I mean, like I like to see a form that inspires me and then go, oh, I want to make that, but I'm never going to make it the same way. It's going to come out my way. You know what I mean? Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah, well, and I mean,
Yeah, I mean, sorry, it isn't everything derivative.
of course, I mean everything. I mean, that's the whole growth of art. I
Yeah,
mean, look
yeah,
at Picasso and Cubism. There are other people that do Cubism too.
yeah.
I mean, now there's a difference between also making something just like so. And by the way, when I got to a point where I was making things that looked very similar in quality
Hmm.
of what my professor was doing in college,
Hmm.
he took me aside and said, "Okay, now you need to start making things your own. You're just making my work now."
Sure. Yeah.
Which is great for you to learn how to do. And I taught you how to do that so that
Yeah.
you can learn those skill sets. But now you need to make it your work.
Hmm.
So that can resemble in likeness in some ways, but it has to have who I am in it. So if people were to take some of the work, I've been very fortunate last year. I got into quite a few shows. I hadn't done shows for many, many years. I got into quite a few jury shows with some work that's very unique. I've not seen
Hmm.
similar to my work that I'm making now in some of these crust forms. I'm doing these large donuts and kind of crushing them and playing with how kind of responsiveness of the clay versus something hitting it and moving it,
Yeah.
kind of
Love that stuff.
motion, movement, those things. And that's what I'll send you some pictures of. But, you know, now if someone else were to do that same thing, I would say it's important for them to not then try to play it off as if it's their work, but
Hmm.
to now take it to the next level and make it their work. Make
Yeah.
it so people would know, oh, that's a Marshall Green, that's a Mike Griffin or whoever it may be,
Yeah.
because there's differences there in what they are.
Well, what's that saying? Imitation is the biggest form of flattery.
For sure. And so, yeah, so I don't, listen,
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so it's nice for that person to say, I learned this, or I'm inspired by this piece by Marshall Green.
sure, sure, sure. And I'll give a good example. You have a friend um, that when we were at Inseca last time together, and he makes these really cool kind of graffiti mugs.
Yep.
What's his name?
Um,
Remember?
oh, Sam Chumley, the
Yeah,
graffiti.
I think so. And it
Yep.
looks like funk punk art, graffiti vibe with cool sayings and stuff on them and kind of real funky, cool mugs.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
that's awesome. So now, if you're going to do that, you've got to do it in a way that's different than him.
Yeah. No.
But you can use the same techniques, you can use the same stylizations, but just make it you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
But if you're a beginner, go copy everyone. That's going to teach you that. That's going to give you the confidence and techniques
Yes.
that
Yeah.
that's are important. I think that a lot of people don't have, um, or don't have the confidence in. Let me put it more that way. I think a lot of people aren't aware of the abilities they have
Or the
in
skill
any form
set.
of art.
A lot of times I think people try to make work like somebody else's and they realize, oh, that's pretty freaking hard to make that piece.
And that too.
You know?
That too.
So yeah. I don't know what I'm doing to this ball. I'm darting it in, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. What else we got?
Well, did you want to hit on the Israel-Palestine issue, or did you want to stay away on this episode of
We're gonna stay away from that.
that?
We're gonna not talk about politics. Um, let's see. If you, what would be, if you had one tip, ceramic tip that you learned and that you think everybody in ceramics should know, what would that be?
Man, that's a good question. I wish I had that one ahead of time.
I know I should have sent you some pre-questions.
So here's my ceramic tip.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people go into workshops or watch tutorials, especially when you're starting out, expecting to have this incredible impact on you and to like totally change what you're doing. And instead, I would say, if you can walk away from a lecture or a workshop or tutorial with one or two little gems
Sure. Yep.
that make your life either easier or make your work better or solve some real simple problem, or you just learn something new that like sets you off in a different way, that's a win.
That's a win. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I guess to sometimes lower your expectations.
Hmm.
And also, there are people who might not be as advanced as you are in doing what they're doing, but sometimes they just have a little something that makes it better or different or easier. And tricks of the trade, I would say. So, man, I wish when I was younger, I took that more seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I was, like I said, in college, we had some great workshops come in, and I wish I was just seeing those in the same light that I would see it now as a mature adult in ceramics.
Sure.
Man, like I could have taken, instead of being cocky and thinking, oh, well, my work's already so great. Why do I even need to watch this guy? Or
Yep.
that's not my style of work,
Yep.
or
Yeah.
that, I don't use wax resist to do detailed lines and stuff. But if I had listened better and been more open minded, I would have been able to take some of those tricks and incorporate them in my work earlier
Yeah.
and had more success in going in directions I think than I have with my kind of arrogance getting in the way as a younger artist.
Yeah. That's interesting. So be open and listen.
Be open and listen. 2 ears, one mouth, right?
Mhm.
Um, and furthermore, I think also be a giving artist.
Yeah.
Like give to other people. It drives me nuts when people are like, I can't give that glaze recipe away. People
Yeah.
will do my work. I can't give that glaze. Dude,
Yeah. Stop it. Everyone, yeah, that's been around
we
for
all win if we all give and support each other to win.
yeah.
And the fact is, it's unfair sometimes. There are people who get breaks or make it in this world who are just as good as 500 other people. There's nothing more special about them. They just get the break. So
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Build them up, make them more successful. The amount of return you'll get from that, I think, in the end is going to be way better
That
than
yeah.
this idea of I can't let anybody see anything, or I got to get mad at someone because they're doing something I've done or someone else has done, or
Yeah.
the silly little pettiness that happens between artists. Because
Yep.
sometimes things feel desperate. I get it. And sometimes life feels like you're not getting the breaks you deserve.
Hmm. Yeah.
You'll see people online who have 10,000 followers, and it might be more because they're very beautiful people than they are actually making good pottery or art in
Mhm.
general.
Sure.
Okay,
Do your
so
own
what?
thing. Yeah.
Encourage them and help them become better, and I think you'll reap the rewards in other ways.
That's funny. I was just reading about that the other day. My wife got me this it's like I forgot what it was, 7 things to being successful or something like that for Christmas. It's a little tiny book, and it's like and that was the second thing. You'll get back twice what you give out.
For sure.
Like even like, if you want money, donate. It'll come back to you. If the universe, they're saying, will give you what you put out.
Yeah, and if you're a pretty good ceramic artist, go do free workshops, man. Go to the local high school that doesn't have accessibility to that stuff, or
Yep.
maybe has an art teacher that isn't a ceramics person.
Yeah.
and offer to do a free program. I've done that a million times.
Yeah.
Go to your local art center, and if you get 3 or 4 people, but my God, they walk away super encouraged and they're excited about art, that's a win. That helps everyone, I think. And that's so fun. Like I went and did a workshop not too long ago, and I was doing a big pot workshop and showing people how to kind of stack your work and make them bigger,
Mm-hmm.
and in art centers that's scary for people because that clay costs money.
It does.
You don't get that free. And then someone looking at that and thinking, well, I can make 3 small or medium-sized bowls, or I can make one big bowl with the same amount of clay
Mm-hmm.
and risk having that not work, going out of my comfort. And then I had someone email me after that workshop saying, I made my first big bowl, and they sent me a picture, and it was 3 times bigger than it. I mean, it was big for them. It was like
Yeah.
a 2 foot bowl or vase or something. And they were so excited because it just changed their whole perspective in life of art and
Yeah.
what they could do. It gave them a confidence. And now they're making much bigger things and challenging themselves in different ways.
Yeah.
And
And
that's awesome. And when
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was gonna say when I moved and did that special select student thing with Alfred, I went and did some. Ironically, at the Alfred Almond High School, they have 2 pottery wheels. You're in the town of one of the largest ceramic schools in the country, and you have 2 small pottery wheels for their art
Yep.
program, very small art program.
Yeah.
But I went and did some free classes, just some free workshops, and about 5 or 6 students showed up, and they had fun. A decade later, a guy comes walking into. I run into him on the street, and he's now the studio assistant working at the art center that I helped start in Wellsville. And he has a master's degree in ceramics now.
Wow.
Because I mean, this is him telling me it's just like, hey, Marshall, the reason I went and pursued this is because you came in and just did an awesome workshop that really got me excited about clay.
Yeah. See,
Every day after that, for my next 2 years of school, I was in that classroom every day after school making ceramics.
that's so cool.
For me, that's better than selling all of my work. I'm going to be honest. That for me is the best feeling in the world to have someone walk away saying, I've been able to pursue a career out of something just based on your giving of a small
Yeah.
something to the
Yeah.
community.
Especially for you, because you're not a very likable person. So I mean,
That's very true. So for me to get some kind of a compliment or is pretty huge.
no, I was just gonna say I've gotten a few of those. Like at the one I workshop I taught, a lady sent me a message saying, "Oh my God, you did what you did for my mom. Took your class. It was amazing. Her work has changed, and thank you so much for the impact you had." And I was like so touched by that, And it's like, and I'm just doing this because I like to do it.
Right.
So it's like hell yeah. And I've been teaching that. So Allie Finaudy used to be at Alfred Almond. She's at Arkport now, and I've been going down there for 10 years now. I used to go over to Cuba Rushford High School and teach over there. And I just do a throwing thing. And I was just thinking before you said that, I wonder how many kids are like going to remember Mike coming and throwing for them and turn into artists. Who knows?
Dude, it's so awesome. And so when those little things happen for me, that's huge.
Yeah, that's priceless right there. So that's cool. That's a nice way to end. We're almost at our time up. 1:59. We did good.
All
Yeah,
right.
I had a cigar. Next time I gotta have a cigar with you. Except I'll have to do it somewhere else. My wife will
I think you should require everyone to have a cigar when they do this podcast.
between 2 cigars, we'll call it.
We do cigars. It's a nice ash podcast. That's what you should have.
between between one Ewer. Yeah, awesome. Marshall Green, what's your website?
MarshallGreenArt.com. I haven't been very productive the last 8 months because I was changing studios and rebuilt this whole studio and waiting for bills to come. So, I mean, there's a lot of good representation of my work on that website. Kind of shows some stuff of what I like to do. I encourage anybody to reach out on the website and get a hold of me if you want to talk, or I love to do workshops. If you have a workshop somewhere you'd like to have me do some work, I really love doing workshops that kind of intertwine wheel throwing and hand building and conjoining those two different practices. And I love big pots. I'm a big pot guy.
Mhm.
So I like doing big work. So, if anybody out there would like to reach out to me, I'd love to do something.
Yeah.
Mike's pretty darn good at these workshops too. He's really blown up in the last year and a half. So
you're definitely one of the best wheel throwers I've seen. You and
far from one of the best, but
I mean,
I can handle my own. I'm confident.
that I've watched on the wheel, you make it look really easy. Like Josh Smith up in Saratoga. God, that kid can throw on the wheel. I have one of his um, vases up there. Where the heck did it go? Where's my pot? Oh, I'll show you. Hold on. I bought this pot from Josh years ago, right?
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful, but I bought it because of this. Watch this.
Pipe grinding solution right there. Pipe grinding solution.
Well, that plus it's just perfect. I mean, it's you can see where you use the pipe grinding solution, but
Here's the tip for my day, Mike. Hold on 1 second. Stay right there. I
yeah.
can't find it. Here you go.
Anyway, that's a Josh Smith. Josh Smith, by the way. Saratoga Clay Arts. I think he's still up there, but look at that lid. Come on, really? Good Lord.
So, do we have to end now, or can we keep talking?
No, we can keep going. What do you got?
Oh shit, let's keep talking.
I got nothing to do.
I mean, they'll give you good stuff to edit. Tip of the day. So you should have a tip of the day for each one of these.
Tip of the day. Gotcha.
Tip of the day, like whether it's a great little recipe for like kiln wash, or a great little tip like how to make your jar lid spin effortlessly.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay.
So this is valve grinding compound. Valve grinding compound.
And you learned that from Val Cushing?
I probably learned it just from somebody at Alfred when I was there.
I learned that from Val's orange book.
So you get this at any hardware store in the country.
Yep.
Okay. They use it for when they're doing pipe fitting.
Yep.
You literally take your finger, you'll dip it in like this.
There's mine.
And you can get in a tube, probably easier in a tube to put it on.
Yep.
And you literally just put, I mean, not too thick, but a little thickness around the inside of your lip of your lid. And if you're making your lids really nice and tight, and I'll give you another tip of how to do that here in a second. So for me, I would take it and put it right on the inside here.
Yep.
On my lid.
Yeah.
This is that doesn't wiggle at all. The lid doesn't wiggle.
Yep.
And you just keep with it.
Yeah.
And there'll be, after about a minute, there'll be no burrs.
Yeah, so it's grinding off the little pieces of grog. Right?
Grinding off the little pieces of grog and burrs that get in there. And then you just wash it with water and it washes right off. It comes right off. And if you have porcelain, because of the smoothness of the porcelain body and the butteriness, you can literally spin your lids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go and it'll spin in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of my tall tale tests whenever I go in and I'm buying pottery or going to a gallery somewhere and there's a nice lid. It drives me nuts when I try to turn that lid. It crackles and doesn't turn and just doesn't fit well in that respect.
Yeah.
But man, you can do that. Now, the other trick, when you're throwing this kind of lid with the reverse inside, so that goes inside the pot and then on the outside.
Yep.
When you throw this, make it slightly too thick. Okay, so it won't fit your pot.
Mm-hmm.
Get them both really leather hard. And then with your trimming tool, trim your lid.
Trim it to fit.
Trim it to fit. And get it really tight, because then you can just take little pieces off. And when you biscuit together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. Yep.
And then that way it doesn't warp and get all funky and it'll settle in nicely.
Yeah.
And it just makes incredibly tight fitting lids.
Yeah,
and then what I do after I trim it and get the lid fitted right, then I actually set the lid on my pot like this. I'll set my pot on my wheel, throw some clay, or if you have one of those suction cup things on the wheel that kind of scrunch it together to center it. And then as it's spinning, I'll actually then throw a handle, put the handle on, and it's all together already, hard, really leather hard, and then just kind of work that handle in there, put a little hole in there so that way it won't blow up the handle being its own little thing. And it makes incredibly tight lids. Mm-hmm. And you will be amazed when you go to art shows and fairs, if you have a really well-built pot like that with a good lid, people will really tell that difference in the quality of what you make.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So those are two really good tips. I've seen people, when you make that flange piece, they make it at a bit of an angle. So then as it sits in, it kind of sits tighter. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes. And I do that with a different type of lid over here. So this type of lid is kind of the reverse lid. I have the inside of the pot with a rim, and then my lid sets in there.
Yep.
It spins beautifully in there, and that's the same way. So yeah, so this one you can see it kind of has that curve down,
Yep.
and I actually when I trim then this one I'm doing the same thing. I'm actually trimming this to fit this, but I
Hmm.
also trim this a little bit to make a nice tight edge in there.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard, and then I'm trimming this. I make this a little bigger, the bottom part of that, so that way as I trim it, it'll sit in there perfectly, and then I
Yeah.
just wipe the glaze out. I don't use wax resist. I just wipe it out
Yeah.
and wipe the edge of that, and it makes a really perfect. I mean, this fits perfectly on there. And what's great is if you're making kimchi or other things that require kind of a vapor lock,
Hmm.
this is a great way to do that
Sure. Yeah.
because then it makes an incredible vapor lock. And then all they have to do is a little wax around there or like a baking wax or something, push that lid in, and that can sit and cook kimchi for you. Not cook, but aged kimchi or those kind of things for a long time.
Yeah. See, I can't do that anymore as a hand builder. It's tough to make stuff fit perfectly in a hand built
Right.
piece.
Yeah.
I think I can get them pretty close, and I've seen Jen Allen make them fit really well, and that's one of the reasons I took her actually the workshop I took from her was a lid workshop. Now I'm teaching a workshop, two workshops coming up in February and March about lidded pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So valve grinding solution changes your world if you're making good fitting lids
Yep.
on the wheel, obviously because of the circular motion and
Yeah.
obviously the good fit.
Great stuff.
So, and yeah, so you get in the tube. Probably the tube's better than my big jar because I got to use my finger to do
Yeah,
it.
I just go bloop, bloop, bloop. I do north, south, east, west, and then
Yeah.
just twist, 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 twist until it doesn't make
You don't
any.
need much, and you can always add more.
Yeah.
And it
And
washes right out.
I
It's great
think this
stuff.
is like $4. It's not expensive.
Yeah, no, it's very cheap.
Yeah.
So, Mike, who, when you're looking at like, are there ceramic artists that one or two that you think made a big impact on you as when you got to a point in clay, you're like, okay, I'm getting pretty good at this. I can kind of make what I want to make. I'm past the learning how to center and throw and the basic composition of putting things together. Are there artists that you look up to and go, oh wow, like their work was massively influencing on me as an artist? Or do you not really have that? Or is it kind of like everyone you look at, you're amazed? Like, I don't know what your pedigree as far as growing in your art and who you look at and go, oh wow, that's work I really.
Well, first thing, I'm the interviewer, so shut it. My show.
I thought we were having a conversation here.
Well, honestly, I remember driving around in the car with you 15 years ago, and they were having like a bowls, like people were putting together bowls for some like charity. And I was brand new to throwing, and you were like, I could do 60 bowls in an hour. And I was like, oh, you can't. Now I'm like, oh yeah, you can. I remember you saying that to me. I was like, there's no freaking way. But yeah, if you throw off the hump, you absolutely could do that. You probably do more.
Yeah.
And then, so honestly, you were a big, you know, influence on me. And to have you as a special student and a guy who was a potter your whole life, and then for me to kind of start late and learn myself, to have you come around and really like my pots and be that meant a lot to me. But as far as looking up, gosh, to people, I mean, my buddy Matt Hiller, his pots are beautiful. He's in Alaska, and there's so many now. Who would I say I really love?
Like, let me ask this then: is there someone who, if they held a workshop, you would be like, "I'm going. I'm going. I don't care how far it is. That's the person I need to go to."
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, that's tough. There's so many. I mean, you got guys like Kenyon Hansen. His glaze, if he did a glaze workshop, yeah, I'd want to be in on that. Val, if Val was still around, that I'd love to make pots with Val. John Gill, I'd like to watch him. I'd like to sit with him and watch him make pots. There's some people I think I can just sit and watch.
You know what I love about John Gill is there's a childish play.
Yeah.
When he makes work. Now, he's incredibly technically proficient. He doesn't seem like he's technically proficient when he plays with clay.
He slaps
right?
it together. Yeah, and you're like,
Yes.
wow, crap. Yeah.
But and you're amazed by the thinness of the pieces and how well he works it together, and it's awesome. But the playfulness he has and the carefreeness,
Mm-hmm.
is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. There's so many out there. I just sent a piece down to Ron Philbeck. We're gonna do a collaboration. I just did a little collaboration jar with Phil Harlem he's from down in Philly. And you know what's funny? Um, he sent me a little jar, so I decorated it.
I was going to say that looks just like your glazing.
Yeah, yeah. So the interesting
Great.
part about collabing for me with
I
people,
love that.
yeah, it's a great little jar, isn't it? I'm gonna
It's a
put this.
beautiful little jar.
Yeah, you know what's funny is so I went to Alfred late in life and became friends with this kid Mike, and then 15 years later, I'm a potter and I become friends with this guy, and him and that kid Mike I went to Alfred with have been lifelong best friends.
Aw.
Who knew? The
So
hard
you're a third wheel?
yeah. So yeah, what else? I mean, that's just there's so many amazing potters out there. Gosh.
Yeah, oh, there is.
Yeah, kind of hard it's hard to even think of one or two. You go to NCECA and you go, oh, let's go see that guy, or well, let's go see that guy. I love going to NCECA. I'm hoping to go again. I
Hey,
might
Mike,
here.
girls can be potters too.
Girls can be potters too. Autumn McKay right now
No, I'm
making
joking. I
really
just
cool
potters.
stuff, right? She's making really cool stuff. Actually, I made a list today. You said make a list. I probably got 50 people on this list for podcasts to talk to.
That's awesome.
And that's only 10 minutes of sitting down. I sent a few messages to some of them saying, hopefully you'll be on the podcast. They're all like, yeah, it'd be so fun. Autumn McKay, Jen Allen, Naomi Clement, Sarah Pike. Have you ever seen her stamped pieces? She makes her stamps, and her stamps are unbelievable. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
She makes teapots that are ridiculously good, but for hand building.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. That's it for me, man. I'm gonna finish this piece. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put a lid on it, maybe.
Lid would be good.
Yeah. It's on a big butt, so this is
Do a
gonna
lid with a really tall or big handle. Like something. Yeah.
make it ridiculous.
Make it funky and big, dude.
Make it like that sweater.
Can't be that cool.
I love it. Anyway, buddy, it's awesome chatting with you. I'm so excited that you're my first episode. This is going to be great.
All right.
Best of luck to you, and I'm sure I'll talk to you when we hang up.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great one, bud.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for being around. See ya.
See ya.